Hello, everybody. I'm Marilyn Bradford, joined by Pam Houghteling, and this is another edition of the Irreverent Therapist. Apparently, it's episode 21 of this particular go-round. We had plenty other episodes in the other one. But today, our topic is getting rid of expectations. What if you got rid of your expectations? What are expectations? Of yours or of others? What standards and demands rule your relationships? Has everything worked out the way you desired and expected to? If not, would you be willing to look at another possibility?
I don't know why, Marilyn, but I can't even hear what you're saying as you read all that. And I know, I looked at it, I know what it says, but it's interesting because expectations, it's like this layer of stuff that we put on top of whatever's really there, what's really going on, what we're actually aware of. And it does that. It kind of buffers us, I think, from being present with what is.
Yes, and it absolutely prevents us from asking a question. Yeah. I had a great example just this morning. So there is a big secondhand store, not clothing so much as furniture, and they even have Waterford crystal, and they have all this African art, and of course New Mexican, Navajo art, and blah, blah, blah furniture. And I have something that I thought was probably quite valuable. But when I talked to them about it, they kind of poo-pooed it. And I could tell that I just had this expectation that it was going to be worth a lot of money. And then I went, woo.
And you feel like you lost something.
I feel like you never did. I never asked a question about it. Yeah. And on the way back, I really identified that. So one of the questions we ask in Access Consciousness, when something comes up like that and you find yourself not being you, is like, how old am I being? 6. Okay, so what? This is a kind of trend over here. But so what happened at 6? Oh, someone made fun of me because they told me I was stupid and I thought this was this and it wasn't. And so we can carry this sense of we're really bad, wrong, and terrible if we find out our expectations aren't true.
Right. It's one more time of me being wrong.
Yes.
Right? Exactly. Yeah. So that's one way that expectations can kind of come up and get in your way. But then there's also, if I'm expecting, okay, so I know Marilyn, I've known Marilyn for years, right? Right. We actually have a friendship where we're able to be very present and with each other in what's actually going on. But let me think back. If I hadn't met you yet, I might have a lot of expectations about Marilyn, whether it's based on where she lives or what I know about her background or what I want her to be in my life, right? Like you can have these expectations of people, and then when they don't live up to them, they don't meet your expectations, things can go very south. And there's also the expectations you have of yourself. So there's
more on that one, Pam.
Well, okay. So I am someone who has kind of a very high expectation of myself where I had, most of my life. I was a perfectionist for a very long time until I encountered Access tools and was able to dismantle some of it. But if I'm expecting myself to always, actually, I can talk about a real person. There's someone I know who's in college, and college actually comes quite easily to her. She's really good at studying and everything, but she has such high expectations because she's always done really well at school. And so if there's anything she's struggling with, she's judging herself really harshly. Whereas, college is a place to learn things. It's a place to explore things you don't know as much about and to find, so it's like her expectation is so high and there's no room for anything to be hard because mostly it hasn't been. And so then she just beats herself up sometimes.
Wow. Yes. Well, and another thing that's just occurred to me is that I can have one set of expectations for how people should behave, and the person who's in that group has other expectations. And this is coming up in my face right now, because I have this expectation that the people I work with or deal with, unless they're clients, that's completely different. They get to be whoever they want to be. But with people that I'm dealing with, women particularly, that they're going to be strong, independent women who take charge of their lives. And I'm
Would that be because that someone describes someone you know, like yourself?
And you. And there's currently someone in my life who she does pathetic. And will you call them and will you take care of them? And I can't make it today. Not like, hey, I'm really sorry, I'm sick. I can't do it. But I just can't do it today. And I just want to squash them.
Yeah.
I kind of do. But her expectation is that by being pathetic and helpless, people are going to take care of her and they'll turn the whole session over to her because she got upset and all of this. And I'm like, that is not happening.
No.
Right.
Well, and that's interesting because, Marilyn and I both have our social work therapist hats and we have our access consciousness facilitator hats that we merge in many ways. And, so you have people like, we all come up with our coping mechanisms, right? Yes. Like, how did you get through your childhood? Yeah. Mine was by making sure everybody was okay, that I knew what people wanted of me and I was exactly that. And just kind of any kind of crises or upset that came up, my job was to smooth it over for everybody.
Yes.
And so that can be a skill. I mean, I think that's part of why I'm a really great therapist.
Right.
Exactly. I did a lot of listening. I'm very intuitive. I developed all that as part of my coping. But then it can also be turned around. Like you could do it to an extreme which is what I used to do as a kid, where there was no sense of me and what I wanted and what I wanted my life to be or anything, because I was so busy trying to take care of everybody else. So, you can have somebody who maybe got through childhood by being pathetic and a victim, and that got people on their side, so they'd be taken care of and stuff like that. But then when you're encountering them in a workplace environment or, friendship or something, it could be very trying to have that. Yeah.
Yes. And if you refuse and you don't have any allowance, it's kind of stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's really nothing else you could do about that.
Yeah. Well, I have some ideas, but that would be a conversation for another time.
Yes, maybe later.
But it's, it's like one of the access tools. It's we talk about projections, expectations, separations, judgments, and rejections.
Yes.
So anytime you're projecting and expecting,
yes,
from other people, from yourself, from the world, then you also have to separate, judge, and reject.
Yes.
As well. And so you can actually ask for all the projections, expectations, separations, judgments, and rejections, and just destroy and uncreate those things. And it's super easy. So,
well, and another topic that I'd like to bring into this is just how much parents have expectations of their children.
Oh, yes.
Huge. Yes. I had clients, this was a lovely couple. I worked with them for, gosh, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years. He came to me originally for addiction, but moved past that. And then we did a lot of family stuff. And once again, these were intelligent people. They had the best interests of their children at heart. That was their belief. I mean, they really worked at being parents. But one conversation we had was about his son, one of his sons, who wasn't doing that well in school, but really wanted to play the violin and do soccer and this and that. he was talking about preventing him from those activities till he got his grades up. And at one point I said, we'll just call the kid Marty. What are your I said, no, that's not what I said. I said, have you ever asked Marty what works for him and what's true for him and what he would like to be and do? And he said, he was kind of shocked. He said, no, isn't my thing as a parent to mold him into what he needs to be and do, and that's to get good grades? So I said, well, that's one way to approach it. I have a lot of allowance as a therapist. But I kind of felt sorry for the kid.
Yeah.
Because they had very strict ideas about how their children should turn out.
Mm-hmm.
And
go ahead.
No.
I was just going to say, I'm so glad you brought that up, because so those parents were having very specific expectations of their kid.
Yes.
And the kid probably has his own expectations of his parents, of himself, and you get people and you're just kind of wrangling over all these expectations rather than going kind of underneath all that to what's actually going on with my kid, what's actually going on in my family. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and something else has occurred to me, and this is just opinions by Marilyn, which I'm happy to share all the time.
I really feel like you should have like a blog, Opinions by Marilyn.
But I think one of the things that's happening in America today, and has been happening for the last 10 years or so, is that there used to be people used to go to church. There used to be expectations, and I'm not making that right or wrong, of how you behaved socially. And once Trump came in and basically said, no, you can lie, cheat, steal, doesn't matter. And I'm not blaming it all on him, because the culture was ready for that somehow. If they hadn't have been, they would have gone, yuck, who is that? Mm-hmm. But somehow a great percentage of the American culture was ready for dropping the expectations that they needed to be good citizens, good people, honest, have integrity, and all of that. And once he set the example, we have a lot more violence and a lot more of what would be considered not a good citizen behavior. Now, once again, I'm not making him the cause of that. He was, I believe, a symptom of some kind of change, and I don't really have a sense of the society breaking down and whatever that is. Anyway, sometimes expectations work in that direction to have people behave better, at least when they're out and about.
Well, and I think the thing is, like, if you're listening here, so we're talking all about different kinds of expectations and how they play out and stuff. And you might be like, okay, so now what? Right? So to me, a big part of this is knowing that anytime you're interacting with someone, you're interacting with them and all their expectations, all their projections, like whatever they're judging about themselves, about everyone else, like it's all there also. And for you, on your side, you have your own projections, your own expectations, your own judgments. So it's like anything you can do to cut through all that to what is. I was talking to someone yesterday who happens to have an in-law who's a bit difficult. So it's a very, very judgmental person, and who went off to do some, go to some beautiful place in Colorado and had only negative things to say about it because they just can't receive the beauty and the, like everything. They have a filter of expectations and projections that like, there is no pleasing this person. There's nothing you can say. There's nothing they could go experience that's going to be a positive thing for them. They're always
like that.
Yeah, like and so what I said to the one I was talking to is like, if you just acknowledge they're never going to be happy, there's nothing you can say that's going to change that, then you have some freedom in how you're responding, right? Because you're not trying to get them to see the world in a different way. You're accepting where they're at and going, well, that's not me. But you're also don't have to be at the effect of it. So I'd say that's one thing I'd love you guys to come away from this with is you may have to find your way with it, but you don't have to be at the effect of everybody's expectations, and you don't have to be at the effect of your own expectations. It's part of it's just acknowledging they're there. Okay, my parents are expecting, straight A's from me no matter what, and that I go into this career I have no interest in. If you can fight against that, or you can acknowledge, okay, that's where they're coming from. That's their expectations for me. Now, what can I do with this?
Yes.
And you're starting from where it is, and then you can see what you actually have available to talk to them about, to choose different, to get some people, to support you in finding how to express your view on it, like whatever it is you need to do.
Oh, I love that, Pam, because that's such a great tool. Okay, what's actually going on with these people? What are their expectations of me? Does that work for me? Have I bought into their expectations? Do I really, truly desire that? And keep asking the questions. And what's it going to create if I don't follow their expectations? Do I need to be kind of prepared for that? Can I do that in a way that's not fighting, like you said, not resistance and reaction? No, I'm going to be me. But you know what? One of my favorite phrases, I'm sorry, that's just not going to work for me. I appreciate your concern and I appreciate your ideas, but that's not going to work for me. So what I'm going to do is blank, 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 blank. Anytime you can choose a space of calmness, particularly when you're not going to follow someone's expectations, including your own, a space of calmness, a space of allowance, that creates so much better than any kind of judgment or fight.
Yeah. Well, I think that's an amazing place for us to end this week.
I do too.
So, bye everybody. See you next time.